What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel today. Just a quick video. Wanted to get on the channel this weekend while I was doing my testing. Very excited to report back to you what I found so far. I think Winter Soldier for me was probably the second most anticipated character to finally get my hands on in its final form, behind Scarlet Witch. And the reason was because in the testing leading up to this, when they made all the changes with his different ammo types, he, for me, was kind of the Swiss Army knife, I guess, if you want to call him, of the characters, because he wasn't really necessarily great in any one aspect, but really, regardless of who you were going up against, he had basically something in his bag of tricks that was going to work. Whether the champion was bleed immune with his incinerate, whether you were dealing with somebody who had like a power flood or power gain, you have a good chance to power drain the characters. They gave him a really strong bleed effect. He's got armor penetration for those that are bleed immune. So I was really excited to finally see what the final version of Winter Soldier was going to look like. So I ranked down my Rhino, put all those catalysts into the Winter Soldier, and I took him into Labyrinth of Legends several times. I took him into the Realm of Legends several times. This is just one of the very first runs, I think, that I was doing, which I wanted to test his bleed, so I took Black Panther Civil Warrior, that synergy, I think it's called Skill Domination, for the 25% increased bleed damage. And I knew the special 3 was going to bleed every time, and it wasn't going to crit, so it was going to be a very good kind of baseline to base everything off of. And I could not believe the bleed that I got right there. 1696, that was the very first time that I tried, and I think that was a 12% increased damage on the S3, and I had my Fury buff up as well, which for all the testing here, I made sure I had my Fury buff up, so that I was kind of getting equal numbers across the board. But that was the Incinerate ammo, and really the point of all my testing here was to see what ammo type I should be using. So if you want to go back and roll it all, you can. I did it already for you. That first special 3 with the Incinerate ammo, 12% increased damage and a Fury buff, was 21,868. And that does not include the extra like 600 damage that you get once the bleed is over, because the Incinerate lasts a little bit longer than the bleed. But this next one here, I'm just waiting for a Fury buff. I finally get it. I think I'm going to fire it off. No, I think I was waiting for that, for him to use a special, so his overheat, which kind of decreases damage, would fall off. I was trying to keep everything fairly consistent and fairly level. Here we go. Okay, so I'm pretty sure, yeah, I got it off with the Fury buff. I got the 12% again. This is the hollow point, so this is the extended bleed damage. And what you'll see is that it's actually ticking for a little bit less. But what you have to keep in mind is that the hollow point will actually tick 11 times. The bleed will tick 11 times. Whereas the Incinerate ammo and the armor penetration ammo, if you get a bleed, is only going to tick for 8 times. So don't be fooled by the increased numbers that you see from Incinerate. I think from my testing, what I found is the hollow point is probably best case scenario, best ammo type to have loaded up if you're going against a bleed character. On the other hand, if the character is bleed immune, then they probably have got a fairly... It always seems like they've got a lot of either physical resistance or some type of armor buff. So what I found is really between the Incinerate ammo type and the armor penetration ammo type, there really was very little difference between the two. The biggest thing is if you're going up against a champion that is bleed immune, don't waste a special by using the hollow point. But don't worry so much about which one of the other two you should be in. Just make sure you're cycling through the hollow point ammo. The best way that I found to switch ammo types is when the enemy is doing a special and you're evading through it. Especially if the animation kind of happens real quick and you can just sit there for a second and you can let those 2.5 seconds roll through to switch types while they're still finishing off their animation or whatever they're doing. It still feels really long in game, 2.5 seconds, but honestly, when I was trying to switch, if I just implemented that and did it during their animations for their specials, I really had no problem at all finding some time to squeeze that in. So right here, I believe I get the 20% increased damage, and this is with the armor penetration round loaded up. So keep in mind, you're going to see some bigger numbers here, but it's because I've got that 20% additional damage as opposed to the 12. So it's ticking for about 1767. Did about 23,436 damage. which is quite a bit. But even so, that's about 2,000 less than what I did with hollow point ammo, and that was only at the 12%. So again, all I'm trying to say is I think probably best case scenario, best ammo that I could find for my testing if the character is bleeding is the hollow point. Outside of that, he's just really fun to play with. I mean, I know I have the class advantage here, but he hits really, really hard. A lot of the times I was getting power drains, which in this case is actually kind of annoying because it's nice to be able to use his specials, you know, to have openings to go back in and attack. And it always seemed like when I was getting ready to have him use a special, that's when I was getting the power drain. And when I wanted the power drain, I wasn't getting it, which is totally fine. But I was really just kind of messing around in this fight. And to be totally honest with you, I think that I probably could take down this Red Hulk in like 3 kills, like 2.5 lives. I could very easily see myself getting over 500,000 damage, which is really cool and exciting to think that I might be able to get the first couple of characters down with minimal cost while just doing some testing. But I know somebody's going to be typing down in the comments section, you know, Star-Lord is a rank 5, and that was an awesome S2 right there, by the way. That was the Incinerate, that was the Bleed, that was really good damage. Had the Fury buff up, and I got a couple power drains, so that S2 is a monster, which I didn't even cover that here, but that's a really good aspect of him as well. What was I saying? Oh, I know somebody's probably typing down in the comment section, well, you know, Star-Lord, he hits so much harder, he's got a shock that ticks for more than that, which I get all of that, but the thing you got to keep in mind is with Winter Soldier, there's absolutely no ramp-up time. You don't have to worry about, you know, what hit streak you're on or waiting to use specials until you're at a high hit streak. You just get your Fury buff, get your S2, get your S3, and go. You know, obviously, if you have a 5-star Star-Lord duped, you know, take him up. Okay, that's a no-brainer. But if you're wrestling around on what 5-star to take up, and you've kind of been holding on to Winter Soldier to see, you know, where he kind of falls at, I strongly would suggest taking him up. You know, for me, it's more of a struggle just because he's not a very high prestige, and I know in my alliance I probably should be taking up my Rhino or my Magic, but I don't want to. Winter Soldier is so much more fun. And here at the end you can see this is the biggest bleed that I got. This came from an Incinerate ammo. He was down below, I don't remember what percentages it is, but my Mastery Assassin kicked in, which is why I got the increased damage here, which I got. This was a almost 27,000. It was 26,994 in total. Would have been a lot higher than that if I'd had the hollow point up. But you can just see, I mean, if I'd had deep wounds, that thing would have been ticking for over 2,000. And I don't think that I have seen anybody outside of Star-Lord, you know, at a high streak get anywhere close to seeing something tick near 2,000. So this was really just meant to kind of show you guys what I was finding. I just wanted to make people aware if they were maybe sitting on the fence with Winter Soldier. Now that kind of all the patches are finalized, people are going to want to know where they should be putting their rank ups. And if you've got, you know, a couple skill champs that you're just not sure, you know, I would say give Winter Soldier a shot. At the very least, with all these rank down tickets we've got, you know, give him some testing. You might be surprised at what you find. I know I certainly was surprised at the amount of damage that I found him to be doing. So a lot of fun to play with. The skill class in general is looking really strong right now. You know, if you're debating between like Black Widow, Elektra, Crossbones, Agent Venom, Daredevil, Winter Soldier, Punisher, I mean, the list goes on and on. They just have so many really fun and really cool characters to play with right now that you really can't go wrong anywhere there. But I'm just throwing my 2 cents in for Winter Soldier. Alright, I'm going to go back to testing, hopefully get some more videos out for you soon with some good content to help you guys make your decisions. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions there as well. I will see you guys in the next video.